Hi and welcome to a video, Kirby Maths video all about trigonometry, or an introduction to trigonometry. So with trigonometry we are using right angled triangles only. And if you don't have a right angle in the triangle, sometimes you can make a right angle by drawing a line to make a right angle, or if you haven't got a right angle and you need to find some angles, then you need to use something called the sine rule or the cosine rule, and I will do that in a different video. So in our right angled triangle we have the right angle and we have an angle, and we're going to call that x. And then we label up our sides depending on where they are compared to the right angle and compared to the x. The right angle always points to the longest side in the triangle, and the longest side in the triangle is called the hypotenuse, and I'm just going to abbreviate that to hype, and normally we would just label it with the letter H. The angle points to, or is opposite, what we call the opposite side in relation to the angle. So this is the opposite side, and again that is usually just labelled with the letter O. And the side that is left in the triangle is called the adjacent side, because adjacent means next to, and it's next to the angle, and that is labelled with an A. And then we have our triplet of triplets, which is Sohcahtoa. And these three relationships work out the angles or the missing sides in a triangle if they're used correctly. And when we have these triplets, we can put them into triangles to help us work things out. And when I have written them, I've raised the second letter in each triplet up a bit, and that helps me remember that the O goes at the top of this triangle. And then in this triangle, the A goes at the top, and the C and the H here, and in this triangle, the T, the O, and the A. And if you write Sohcahtoa like this with the middle letter of the triplet raised, then it will help you put them into the triangles for when we're working things out. So let's do an example, and we're going to start off with this triangle here. A right angled triangle. It's got an angle of 30 degrees. We're trying to find the length of the hypotenuse, and this side is 12 centimeters. So before we do anything, we label up the triangle. The right angle is pointing to this side, so this is the hypotenuse, that's an H. The 30-degree angle is opposite this side, so that's the O. And that leaves the side next to the 30-degree angle, which is the adjacent side, which we label up as an A. Then we write Sohcahtoa, and we're going to tick off the things that we've got, and we're going to work out which triplet we're going to use. So over here, Sohcahtoa, and then we write down what we've got and what we want. So we have got the angle, and if we've got the angle, that means we've also got the S, the C, and the T, because they are stored in our calculator. Okay. We have also got, in this case, the opposite. And what we are trying to find out, the thing that we want, the X, is the hypotenuse. So armed with this information here, we go to our Sohcahtoa and we tick off the things, first of all, that we have got. We've got the angle, so we've got the S, the C, and the T, and we've also got the opposite side, so we can tick off the O here and here, and we want the hypotenuse. So that means that we look along there and we try and find out which triplet we are going to use. We've got the angle, the opposite, and we want the hypotenuse. It is this one. We are going to use the sine ratio. Okay. You need to have two things in the triplet in order to find the third. So we couldn't use the cos here because we've only got the angle. We haven't got the adjacent, the hypotenuse. We're trying to find the hypotenuse. And we have got two things here. We've got the angle, the tan, and the opposite, but that would find us the adjacent, and we don't want to find the adjacent. We're trying to find the hypotenuse. So this is the one we're going to use, and then we write out the triangle that we're going to use. So SOH, draw it into a triangle, and then we cover up the thing we are trying to find, and we are trying to find the hypotenuse. So we cover up the hypotenuse, and that will tell us that we're going to do the opposite divided by the sine of the angle, the opposite divided by the sine of the angle. So the hypotenuse is equal to the opposite divided by the sine of the angle. And then we put our numbers from our diagram into that, onto our calculator. So the hypotenuse is equal to the opposite, which is 12, divided by the sine of 30. And if you pop that all into your calculator, 12 divided by sine 30, then you will get the answer 24 centimetres. I'm going to do one more example of how to find the side in a triangle using a different ratio this time. So we'll start off with this triangle. Still a right angled triangle. Oops. This time it's up a different way, but it doesn't matter. We still label up the sides the same way. The angle here is 47 degrees. The side here is 7.3 centimetres. And we want to find the missing side along the top there, the x. Labelling up the sides, first of all we put our h on for hypotenuse. Opposite the angle is the 7.3, and then the a here, the adjacent, is next to the angle and the right angle. Write down our Sohcahtoa. What we have got, we've got the angle, which means we've got the S, the C and the T because they're stored in our calculator. We have got the opposite, and we want the adjacent. Taking off what we have got, we've got the S, the C and the T. We have got the opposite, and we want the adjacent. Last time I used the sine because I was trying to find the hypotenuse. This time I'm going to use this one because I've got two things. I can find the third, and I do want to find the adjacent, and that will help me with that. So I'm going to use this triangle, and I'm going to cover up the thing I want. I want the adjacent. So if I cover up the adjacent, it's going to be equal to the opposite, excuse me, opposite divided by the tangent. So I write that down. Adjacent is equal to the opposite divided by the tangent. Then I put my values in from my diagram. The opposite was 7.3, and the angle, so tan 47. Again, you just plug that into your calculator, and that would give you an answer of 6.81 centimetres. Thanks for watching.